Hello and welcome to another episode of Just Bring It. Today we are talking about the new faces in wXw, and my guest today is Ender Kara, who recently debuted for wXw last year. He's the current DPW light heavyweight champion. He has wrestled for companies like GWF, DPW, CCW, AGW, and now wXw. He's from Sweden, and I'm very pleased to welcome here on the show. Hey, welcome, Endakara. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. We've been looking forward to this. You're a new face. You just debuted in the Catch Grand Prix last year for WXW,
Right,
and as a quote-unquote replacement for
right.
Imi Sutochi. And but what a first debut for WXW it was. Like, very great match. Like, and it had made a lasting impression because you're back now on the Wheel of Wrestling
That's right.
tapings with WXW. And yeah, the first question is, how did you come to wrestling? What is your journey into the wrestling business?
Oh, such a deep question because before this interview, I was thinking about things I've done and looking back at things which I usually don't do. But I realized I've done a lot of things. But how I got into it in the first place, I was basically a fan, just like pretty much everyone else. I looked up promotions within Sweden at that time because I'm born and raised in Stockholm, Sweden. And yeah, I did find a promotion there, and I just kept it in the back of my mind for a very, very long time. Was graduated high school and all that. I was just miserable because I was working, and I wasn't really happy. And then there's one day, like a really bad day, I was just thinking like, why am I thinking like a peasant? Why don't I just do whatever that makes me happy? And from that point on, like I was like, if this job doesn't work out, I'm just gonna say fuck it, and I'm just gonna, you know, reach out to the promotion that I had in the back of my mind this entire time, and basically pursue wrestling. And yeah, the week after that, the company got bankrupt. So
Oh.
I was like, all right, okay, that's the sign. I'm out of here, and I'm doing this now. And that was my first training was on the 31st of October in 2016. And ever since that day, I basically dedicated my entire life to it. And yeah, I did make my debut like 3 months later. I wasn't ready, but it just happened. And that was on the 29th of January 2017. And I still remember those dates, obviously, as you can tell. But yeah, that's basically how I got into it. And yeah, that's pretty much it, really. Everything else is basically history. Um, getting into the international bookings and such, which I had to do through Denmark to begin with, and then eventually I would go to England, and I would wrestle in Finland after that, and then I would go to Belgium, I believe, and then there was Germany for GWF at that time, which was my German debut in Germany, basically. But yeah, I just literally just fast forward like 4 years just now, but it's obviously more into that.
It's
But yeah,
it's it's a lot of things very fast. Like you said, 2017 was your official start, and now it's
yeah,
2021. And if you already seen a lot of countries in Europe and had a lot of great bookings, um,
yeah.
so is there any one that the audience might need to know of that trained you in your time in Sweden?
Um, in Sweden, if you look at the majority of the time I was there, I was practically self-trained. However, to begin with, getting into basics and all those things, there's this guy called Victor Bolt, also known as Thunderbolt Bolt, like he Thunderbolt Piggin. But yeah, Victor Bolt is his name, and he basically taught me the basics that bumping and such, which I obviously picked up really quickly because I already had an idea of how to do these things because I actually watched the product, which a lot of things didn't, like a lot of people didn't do. And yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I had to debut so early, because I simply understood the basics quicker than most guys. But yeah, and if you aside from that, aside from the training from Victor Volt, I was basically self-trained. We had a ring, we had a beautiful gym, uh, and yeah, I basically since I dedicated my life to it, I would be there as much as possible for as long as possible, and practiced inside and outside of the ring, mostly by myself. Uh, so yeah, I would say I'm maybe 70% self-trained until I moved to England. Um, Over there, I was training with Fight Club Pro, and three guys trained me over there. Two of them I'm not going to mention because of the speaking out movement. But the third guy is Pete Dunn. Uh, so
Huh.
that's a pretty big name. But
Yeah,
Pete Dunn was my trainer at Fight Club Pro.
Pete
So
Dunne.
yeah,
He's
and now
like
I'm basically yeah,
he ascended to the top also like from the field like it was really fast because we've just seen
yeah,
him WXW and like a year later he signed his contract with
yeah.
the he's one of the big names. Is there anyone you are maybe looking towards the future you would like to train with like from all of wrestling like some certain trainer for example like Al Snow or Dr. Tom Pritchard, all of these people, anyone?
I'm mostly looking at Japan to be honest with you because that's my ultimate goal to begin with. So yeah, in Japan, I would love to be trained by whoever. Like I believe Tiger Mask holds the training at the New Japan house in the dojo there. So that would be pretty cool as well. But yeah, my eyes are definitely on Japan.
And did you have any, as you mentioned, Japan, obviously high work rate, a lot of hard moves, strong style, all of this stuff.
Yeah,
Have you any sports background before you started with wrestling that kind of lead did make it easier for you to go into wrestling now? Did you train anything before that?
yeah, I did 100% what you're saying. I actually did Taekwondo, and I'm a Taekwondo black belt. I did Taekwondo since 2010, and I practiced that martial art seriously until 2015. Uh, and then from there, I would show up, train the younger guys, and I would train with the national team members and compete within these 5 years and such like and such. But yeah, I truly feel like my taekwondo background really did help me a lot because over there I learned more about discipline and grit and hard work because at that time my goal at that time before wrestling was doing the Olympics in taekwondo. So obviously that didn't really I didn't really strive for that eventually because I was still in school and all that, and then school got in the way, and they changed all the rules within fighting in taekwondo, which I did. Like I did the fighting part, not the homestead, which is basically patterns, like kata or karate. Um, but yeah, I did fighting, and they changed all the rules, and basically my fire from that martial arts pretty much vanished. Uh, However, like if I'm in Sweden, I will obviously like from time to time go in there and get some kicks in here and there. But yeah, those kicks from the Taekwondo background that's really helped me, um, within wrestling, obviously, and like I said, the discipline, and that's why I'm very very intrigued by promotions such as Pro Wrestling Noah because I feel like my style really screams Pro Wrestling Noah, and that's basically uh, the type of wrestling I watch. I watch just Japanese wrestling, to be honest with you, and from time to time I can watch an AEW thing or even a NXT thing. But I'm very, very dedicated uh, to work in Japan at the end of the day.
So yeah, it's the highly sports based products are more what you are into, right? Like
Absolutely.
so because as we are a nerd podcast, that's like our thing. I wanted to ask the question. We now talked about the wrestling, the craft itself a lot, but the
Yeah.
also a part still. more about the soap opera part of wrestling, but still this question has to be asked as we are not podcast. The wrestling character, your wrestling character,
Yeah.
how would you compare it to any movie or TV show character? Is there any inspiration you've taken from a TV show or a movie or comic character even that you would connect to your wrestling character inside the ring?
Oof, that's also one of those deep questions. Like since I've dedicated my life to everything I do in my life, it's related to wrestling. So whenever I watch a anime or a movie or anything, I always think of things I can use from that in the ring or for my character. And I basically have two gimmicks right now, and or I had one, but now I have two, because I had left one before, but then WXW happened, and now I got back into that one that I left, which is the Turkish Assassin. And usually, like outside of WXW, I'm usually wrestling as the Crown Prince, which is basically a villain, but in his eyes, a villain whose story has not been told. And when I'm in the ring, that's the story I tell in the ring with my grit and being authentic in the ring and all. And then some audience members find a liking to it, and that's where the Stockholm syndrome thing comes into play. However, like in terms of like getting inspiration from different characters in movies and such, I'm maybe it's hard. It's very hard. If I look into something like, for an example, I watched Attack on Titan, which is an anime, a great anime.
Mm-hmm.
I also read the manga, obviously. But, from there, I look at the grit of the main character called Eren Yeager, which is Eren Hunter. But yeah, he has great. Like if you look at the first season, his dedication towards fulfilling his purpose after experiencing a very tragic event. That's like an example of like I'm like if I see that I'm like nodding because I can relate to that dedication and that hatred that he has and the like him being so vindictive basically because that's pretty much how I am and as my character are. So yeah, it's
That's
there's loads of inspirations um, towards my characters. I would say, but it's a really hard question to answer. I gotta be honest with you.
it's like as you say, it's like part of being part of the journey. That's something a fan could latch onto and then get more involved with you as Endakara and like be part of this journey, like starting out and coming through. That's like a good character connection or a good position for me or the audience as a fan to latch onto. Because we can all be part of this ride and the story of Endakara. So that's actually really nice. And
Mm,
this combined with your athletic background and your will to be better and to go
yeah.
this tough style of
Mm,
Japanese wrestling. I think there's a lot of what fans can draw to and draw their attention
mm,
to, and this kind of explains your new journey in WXW, which I'm going
yeah.
to refer to in a bit. But before we get to WXW, uh, I wanted to ask you about your biggest rivals outside of WXW, like in your international
Mm,
experiences. For example, when I made my research about you, I saw the
yes.
match of you versus OGMO. Would you describe him as your biggest rival yet, or someone else?
OJMO. I don't really know if I have any other rival. I think I've always wrestled or competed, I'd say, against different individuals and have to, adapt my style and adapt towards the audience and such. But OJMO is like definitely someone to this day I actually look up to and look at because I'm like I admire the work he puts in. Um, Obviously, like England is a tough subject to discuss nowadays. However, from day one, from when I met him, I did a seminar in England, which was my first ever, trip by myself without family and all that, just for wrestling, just to do a seminar in London without even having wrestling and knowing anyone over there. And I met him over there, and ever since that day, I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And but yeah, then I got the pleasure to work him. However, I truly feel like we could definitely do much better than that. That was a very long time ago. I'm dude I never really wrestled or competed against. Consider my rival is a Swedish golden boy, let's say, called Timmy. He's not that active anymore. However, he was one of those guys I always saw a rival and someone I had to you know, work towards. But now I've totally like gone way over him, and he's not even on that level anymore. I would say if he is, he he's very welcome to prove it. However, like I said, like I don't feel like I have a rival. Let's say if I don't, I'll give an example in Denmark. I'm part of a faction called Jury over there, and basically everyone over there is alright. But if I have to pick one person that I've competed against, that I feel like we can tear the house down anytime, any place, wherever we are, and that I've competed against multiple times, I would say it's Carlos Zamora from Denmark. Yeah.
Yeah, the last name I couldn't understand because we had some technical difficulties. So,
Oh, right. Uh, Carlos Zamora. That's
ah,
the name.
okay.
Based
So,
in Denmark, and yeah, I'd say he could be considered a rival because I've worked him multiple times, and yeah,
So, so everyone who wants to do some research, check out the matches of Carlos and Ender, to check out some rivalry stuff. And yeah, then your journey led to us here in Germany, to Westside Extreme Wrestling. And how did that came
yeah.
about? As I mentioned before, you competed in the Catch Grand Prix. Um, how did that happen? How did WXW find you? Did you find them? How was that for you?
So I would say I found them. So what I did was I went down to the WXW Academy and lived in the apartment that they provide for us, and I was there for 1 week. Uh, I would say, or some people would, I'm very, I'd say I would consider myself a very humble guy. Like I'm bad with compliments and all. I'm never really changing. But for some like people say I did a good impression over there based on my efforts and training and all. And I was like, cool. And then since I was there, and I've basically been in a lot of places by that time, and I'm like, this is the place to be. Like this feels very, very good because over there it's like, it's no drama. It's basically people who go there to achieve their goals and push each other to the limit and bring the best out of each other and just overall good vibes for someone who's as dedicated as I am. And that's the vibe I got from being there. So I was there for 1 week, and then I decided eventually I'm gonna be back, and I did go back. However, this time it was for an entire month, and that was, I believe, in September last year.
Yes.
And so I stayed there for an entire month. I did all the training. Like I don't only show up to the advanced trainings, but I show up to the beginners, the intermediate. I'm there twice a day, every day, and I'm putting the work in. And because no vacation, or I would say no trip was ever a vacation. It was always just work. I was going to work. That's how I saw it. But yeah, so with that mentality I had over there, I made a good impression to be invited, or I made a good impression once again to be invited to their tapings, upcoming tapings at that time. And they're like, "Oh, bring your gear," which I already did because that's rule number one as a wrestler: always bring your gear. Uh, so yeah, I brought my gear, and I didn't know if I was gonna work or not. And then we got to the tapings. We had a look at the card, and I saw that I was gonna work the next day. I was like, "Cool, lovely." I was very happy about that. Also very nervous, but like nervous in a good way because I was excited to actually showcase, um, my work basically because I feel like that was almost like an approval and recognition for the work I had put in during these years and the platform that WXW provides was something that I really appreciated. Um, but yeah, I worked the day after um, do a do a great impression. Mike Bailey even contacted me, said, "Hey, I heard you did a good impression." I was like, "Yeah, I did. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you too, by the way." And so ever since that, oh yeah, and then Sitochi got hurt, and then the management came after me. They're like, "You want to wrestle?" I said, "I would love to wrestle," and I wrestled, and another impression right there. You know, just being someone they can rely on. Someone who actually wants to be in there and actually wants to compete and get better. Because every match I ever did was in my mind a proper training session. Since I didn't have access to a ring in Sweden until because the ring I used to train in by myself in Sweden was removed from the facility when I moved to England. And when I got back from England, it was still gone, and I didn't have a ring to train in. And this is in Stockholm, by the way. So for a guy from a place where wrestling is not a thing at all, I take every opportunity I can take to get some reps inside the ring because that's the proper training session in my mind. And so I couldn't say no, and I did wrestle, and I did a good impression again, and now I am based out of Germany, and now I'm a part of WXW's main roster, I would say. But yeah, right now, looking at the pandemic and all, like my focus is currently on Germany.
Yeah, as you said, you're basically on the main roster now. Like being on the show is one thing, but actually having some sort of storyline is another thing. And
Right.
it looks like you are kind of involved in a storyline right now. As a time of this recording, we've seen seven Wheel of Wrestling events released, and
Yep.
you've been challenged by Coach Dreisker, Robert Dreisker, to a trial
Right.
series. Yeah, and they've been already thrown the big stars at you, like the really high caliber ones, like you've wrestled the champion Bobby Guns, and lasted about
Good.
4 minutes 30 seconds, and you faced former one of the tag team
Yep.
champions Fast and Mudo in a 5 minute match. So you really get the big ones here, and yeah, you are
Yep.
and that's all because Coach Dreisker said you are too flamboyant and you're like too much working the crowd now, and so
Right.
you have to earn your spot now.
Yeah.
Did that come about? How is your feeling about this? And yeah, how were these matches against Guns and Mudo?
Um, me personally, I really enjoyed it. I love the storyline. I feel like it fits. And after the Bobby match, I'm still not sure when this is getting released. However, I was hurt after that Bobby match, after that Bobby Guns match, and yeah. Uh, so we'll see how that's gonna end up. I can't really comment on that right now because,
No,
like
no,
I said,
we are
I don't
not.
know when this is getting
We are
released.
no spoiler policy. We are living that here at Just Bring It, and at WXW. So if people want to find out, they have to log on to WXW now, next week, and the
Yeah,
week after, and the week after to see your journey continue in the WXW ring.
that is very true. Yeah,
um,
I'm very new to this, as you can tell.
Yeah, because like the Tri Series is something we haven't seen for quite some time in
Yeah,
WXW, and if it happens, it's not
yeah,
really mentioned. Like you can see people
right.
having matches to show themselves and present themselves, but this time it's now put into a box, and there's a label on it,
Yeah,
tribal trial series, and you
yeah,
are like really facing some big competition here, and
right.
I believe this is going to help us as an audience to get to know you as a wrestler better, to see
100%.
what happens when you get put in this not hostage, but in these stressful situations against like
Right.
Bobby Guns. I can't imagine.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah,
That was pretty surreal.
yeah, it's like he's been champion for almost 500 days now, and he's been there for
Yeah,
ages in
yeah,
WXW. He's like the prime example because he started out as well as like one of these guys who had to prove himself. I, if
yeah.
you ask him, he will never tell you he's been always been that great. I'm sure that what he would tell you and us. But he's been climbing up that mountain, and yeah, now we see
Yeah,
you doing the same thing with your own
that's right.
style and your own mental determination, and that's
Right.
really great to see. Um, and but this taping from Real of Wrestling, it wasn't around easy circumstances. For example, you not only you had the corona commitments, you have to wear a mask and you have
Right.
to keep social distance and that stuff.
The
No
distance.
fans, no fans. But also there was a blizzard around the
Mm-hmm.
arena at this time, a really tough one because I'm also
There was.
living close to Oberhausen, so it was like
Yeah,
it's not normally not like this in Germany. It's
yeah,
like this was.
yeah. I was like, what have I gotten myself into here? I'm from Sweden. I think it's cold. I was like, what the hell is this? Coldest venue I've ever been in. That's what I thought. But
It's
yeah,
crazy because the Steffis, which where this has been recorded in the Turbine Hall,
yes.
it's the hottest building in the summer and it's also the coldest building in the winter. So
Mm,
it's
mm,
yeah, it's for people that haven't been there, it's a very old, like ancient building from way back. But it's very really nice when you get inside as a venue. It's really
mm-hmm.
cool. Uh,
Yeah.
really that gritty feeling. If you just don't stare long at the outside wall for that long, then you might get scared. But if you are inside, it's really cool. But how
Yeah.
was that wrestling like in the cold? Like I've seen the most recent episode of Wheel of Wrestling, and all of the athletes were like steaming
Yeah.
from because
Oh
they were
yeah. Yeah. My
so
Alani was steaming. Like, that was really fun to look at actually. Yeah, it's very like for me, it was very difficult because I was so cold. I couldn't properly warm up. I had to keep my distance. I had to keep the mask on, and yeah, but like especially on the beginning of the trial series, I had no adrenaline whatsoever because I was so cold and I couldn't, you know, like I said, properly warm up and such. However, like by the time like as went on and then you kind of get used to it, and from there, as I got used to it, I felt like my performances within the matches were more like way better. That's also like if you look at story wise, because with Robert, I was just showing off, and I had to dive, and I'm talking to the camera, and he's right behind me, beating me up. When I do the dive against Mudo, I look at the camera and I instantly get him back in. I'm no showing up, just get him back in immediately because I learned my lesson. And then against Bobby, I don't even do a dive. I just stay consistent on him. I let the adrenaline drive take me through the match because him twisting those ankle locks on me, man, that was very difficult to work with, you know. However, yeah, you kind of got used to it, but yeah, it was way difficult than it should be and than it usually is. So yeah, but we made it work, and very proud of every single person who was part of the tapings, considering the bubble and no outside contact and all that. So it was something very unique, but clearly it worked. So it's not stupid if it works, right? So
yeah.
I was very happy with everyone's performances and work and effort they put into that, especially the management. I can't believe how they did that and how stressful that must have been.
Absolutely, and obviously with limited people there, not just like for their normal events when before Corona, because like I can imagine it's
Right.
not that easy for every staff member to be there for I believe 5 days straight in the
Yep.
bubble because
Yep.
most people also have an outside job to worry about.
Right.
So it's they must have worked under limited staff numbers. So
Yeah.
it's very crazy that this has been pulled off,
Mm.
and it has such a great quality, not just from the wrestling and from the entertainment standpoint, but also the output, like the quality of the
Yep.
camera work and all of this stuff. Really great. And
Yep.
obviously, the big ones in this business have noticed, so now your matches are on WWE Network and Peacock. How is that for you?
That was something pretty surreal too, because I believe I might be the first Swedish wrestler to ever do it. Not quite sure honestly. But I've it had come to my attention that people had mentioned that to me, but I'm not quite sure, so I won't really say it. But yeah, that was something pretty surreal too, especially the match against Rotation, which was got a lot of this attention, let's say, because Mike Bailey truly enjoyed it and put it over on Twitter. And yeah, and then Ahura, obviously, that was the debut and my first win in WXW, which was a good impression. And then yeah, we have Axel, the Rotation, and then we have the trial series, and so it feels good. I kind of always I couldn't really soak it all in because to me, like I always saw that this was gonna happen eventually anyway. So and I feel like I could get more. I could be considered more serious in that case. Like, oh wow, he's really, still working. Because some people they tend to look me up and they're like, oh wow, this guy still putting the work in. Holy shit, so yeah, it feels very surreal, honestly. But yeah, like I've mentioned in different podcasts and for other people outside of podcasts and all that, like this is just stepping stones. These are not not even close to being finished. So, but and other than that, it's very, very, very cool because like mostly everyone else, like I started watching WWE when I was younger, obviously, and that's how I got into it in the first place. So yeah, it's very, very cool.
And obviously, you are not done yet. This isn't the finish line. So, what are your next goals? Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? What is your game plan there?
Um, well, loaded question as well, but for now, considering the current situation in the world, I am focusing on WXW for now. However, after that, I truly feel like I'm ready to, go for Japan, which I, you know, pretty much already tried to do. That was my plan A. It's always been my plan A, but I've always had a plan B, and plan B was always Germany. And since COVID and since financial issues, uh, Japan was not suitable at the time. Therefore, I'm here, and I've been in contact with Pro Wrestling Noah, and which is that that itself is pretty surreal. But we came to the conclusion that they couldn't bring talent overseas, sadly. And I have friends in Japan from uh, people I met in England, such as Meiko Satomura, which was who was working for Club Pro when she was around in England, and several other guys like Shigehiro Iri, and but yeah, what I'm looking forward to now is WXW. Possibly, we will see what happens in WXW. Anything can happen in WXW, to be honest with you. However, Japan is always the ultimate goal, and Japan has always been the goal. I'm not looking towards uh, America or England. I failed in England already, so I've already gone past that. I would say because when I was in England, my goal was to work Progress, Rev Pro, or Fight Club Pro, and I did none of those things other than crewing for them. And that was on me. I failed over there. That was my stepping stone, and now I'm in Germany. And from Germany, I'm gonna head to Japan. That is how I see this happening.
Let's hope that this plan goes through, and I'm sure after this virus is done, after fans are back allowed, and after international traveling has eased out, I'm sure the doors are opening again for everyone that's willing
Yeah,
and that's bringing the right determination to explore these different options, like in Japan
yeah,
or Germany even, because like I'm pretty sure this isn't the end for you in Germany as well, because you've just started out and
no,
there's so many
not at
so
all.
many championships to win. um, and that
Absolutely, Germany has become my home, So yeah.
so you haven't been part of a 16 carat yet, and I think that is an experience
Oh,
that everyone has to do. So
absolutely. I
hopefully,
can't believe I forgot about that. That's actually one of the goals as well. I want to be a part of 16 carat gold tournament. That is my ultimate goal in Germany. Which I can't believe I didn't mention that, but I even have this as a um, wallpaper on my phone. That's a reminder of what I'm working towards. So my ultimate goal in Germany. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I can't believe I forgot that.
yeah, the 16 carat. Yeah, probably you forgot it because it didn't happen this year for the first time ever,
Yeah, that's
which
a fair
is
point. Yeah.
that's obviously it's sad, but I'm sure you don't know how the things are going to develop in Germany and around the world in the next few months. But
Mm,
hopefully, maybe there
right.
will be something not similar, but like maybe a event with a few fans, maybe Halls, the event that was held
Mm,
last year, like an open air
yeah.
event. Maybe that's what is something we can look forward to, everyone. And yeah, then maybe next year, when most people are vaccinated, maybe then we can think about 16 karat gold. And as WXW announced, they now center around a more continental Europe based roster, and they want to be more
Yeah.
sports based, so you would still fit right
Yeah.
into this mix. And
Exactly. Yeah.
yes, maybe your trial series will go on until then, who knows. And then you will be
Who knows?
part, you earned yourself a spot in the 16 current, and if not, there's still the fatal four way, always the how do they call it, the replacement fatal four way. So if you win that and then
Mm,
somebody else in the tournament is injured, you can jump right into it and do the same as you did in the catch Grand Prix, but this time you
right.
might be winning. Who knows?
Who knows?
So there's a lot of things that can happen. As you said, a lot of things can and will happen in WXW. You never know what's
Absolutely.
next. Um, so at the time of this recording, Dead End hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure a lot of crazy things have happened on that show as well.
Oh yes.
Um, and as we are coming to a close of this interview, of course, the big question I believe everyone is having on their mind is how can people find you on the internet?
You can always follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and even add me as a friend on Facebook. Don't be shy. On Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at EnderCaraPW, and on Facebook, I am EnderCara. So yeah, don't be shy. Add me if you feel like it. Ask me anything, anytime. I will always reply to you. And yeah,
And
follow me on my journey.
I see your Turkish Assassin T-shirt there. Is there anything where people can find that on?
Absolutely. I have my own section, I would say, on slwrestling.de, I believe.
Yes.
So yeah, please buy my merch.
Wonderful
uh,
stuff.
I have really good looking shirts. So if you are a man or woman with taste, have a look at that, and yeah, and then send me a picture. Maybe I don't know. I will retweet it. Yeah, I will like what I see. Nonetheless, you know, just support overall. Just to me, like I will always appreciate that more than anything. And people will never truly understand how much that means to me. Like a guy like me, because of my background and what I did before wrestling and how I was as a person and all that. Just yeah, hard to explain in words. Honestly, it's almost indescribable. Uh,
Wonderful
yeah,
stuff. And that's what
I
it's
would
all
really
about in the
appreciate the
end.
support.
Like the wrestling as a
Absolutely.
family, supporting each other. And yeah, if you listening to this have any questions still left open, you can follow us at justbringit_pod on Twitter. And of course, thank you very much for being here, Ender. It was a pleasure talking to you, and wish you all the best in your career and in your
My
future.
pleasure.
And of
Thank you.
course, the final words belong to our guests. So thank you guys for listening. Goodbye.
Stay tuned, I would say. Stay tuned.
Stay
Good
tuned.
things are coming. Everything is connected.
Okay. Okay. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. Nice evening, morning, midday, whenever you're listening to this. Bye.